Welcome to another episode of Ferrofan Focus. In this series, we're speaking with some of music's brightest pioneers and power players from all corners of the industry, bringing you the best advice and insights. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to Ferrofan. Ferrofan is a CRM built specifically for artists and the teams that support them. So make sure you head over to ferrofanmusic.com to learn more about how we're helping artists grow, understand and nurture their fan base, and how we can do the same for you. I recently caught up with the manager of influencer marketing at Def Jam Recordings, Jacorey Barkley. We spoke about his role at Def Jam, the current state of marketing, and why he thinks micro-influencers are king in 2025. So let's focus up and dive straight into the conversation. See, the barrier to entry for most things over the last few decades has lowered, but would you say it's now even harder to break an artist, compared to what it was 2 decades ago?
So yes and no. I think it's just changed a lot, right? So like I said, I think the first place it starts is understanding where the current influencer landscape is. It's no longer a space where just because an influencer has 10 million followers, it means that your video is going to get a lot of views or go viral, right? I guess what I'm trying to say is that I think when influencer marketing really became a thing, when TikTok boomed, so that was what, like 2018, 2019, macro and mega influencer marketing was the thing. Like, how can we find the person that's as big as possible, and as budget friendly as possible, and then get to them first? Because they have 10 million people, so we assume that at least 1 million will see it, 100,000 will react, and then 30,000 of those people will react positively. Like, that was the thinking back then. Now, it's kind of flipped, right? And so you're seeing a lot more emphasis on micro influencer marketing. So less about, hey, how can we find 10 people with 1 million followers, but can we find 100 people with 10,000 followers? You know what I'm saying? Or can we find 1,000 people with 1,000 followers that all fall within the budget? Because, and I think a lot of that has to do with TikTok and to some extent Reels and YouTube Shorts, but mostly TikTok, because TikTok's algorithm was the first one that, at least to my knowledge, it was the first algorithm where a regular person's video could compete with a video of a celebrity. You could be Charlie D'Amelio and post a dance video, and I could be Joe Schmo in Idaho, but if my video is creative enough, I'll get just as many views and reach as Charlie D'Amelio does. So because of that, I think marketers and marketing teams have wised up to go like, hey, why would I pay Charlie D'Amelio 100K when I could pay Josh $100 and they have just as much of a chance of going viral because of the way the algorithm works, right? So we're starting to see a lot more emphasis on micro influencers, getting small creators like less than 100K tapped into stuff, doing like these broad stroke campaigns where we're more so hitting a bunch of people at one time and letting them all shoot out. And then as the concept starts to get more materialized and starts to have more motion, then you start moving closer to like what people think of as traditional influencer marketing. Hey, this is already proven that it works. Now I go get Charlie D'Amelio. Now I go get K Baby Lame or whoever the mega influencers are at the time. I don't think it's any worse. I actually think now is probably one of the better times for influencer marketing because it's less emphasis on mega influencers. Like I said, 2019, if you didn't have the budget to pay the influencers that had the millions of followers, like, you just kind of ass out. You could do a micro influencer campaign. They have always existed, and I think they've always had some effectiveness. But now this is the first time where they've been on equal playing field. And so like now I think it's like if you're an artist with $1,000 budget, your influencer campaign genuinely does have just as much of a chance of doing well as the guy with $10,000 budget paying 2 or 3 influencers. And so you couple that with, like I said, I think having a media brand where you can look at these creators and these pages like, blogs that can introduce you to the news cycles, or media personalities that can give you extra content or something to do that you wouldn't be able to do, then I think that in some ways makes it easier than it was back in 2019. Not because you couldn't do it. Like, all these things we're seeing happen today were being done in 2018, 2019, just to a smaller scale because people believed in it less. And the concepts were like, oh my God, why would we pay this girl with 10,000 followers when our budget can cover the same girl with a million followers or something like that? But I think that now people are more hip to it. People have lost money doing TikTok campaigns, right? Like, and I think, it's, as much as it sucks to say, the only way for the marketplace to change is like there needs to be people who visibly have success, and there needs to be people who visibly have failures. You know what I'm saying? So like we need to be able to see both sides of it. And I think that we just have reached a point to where enough people have seen failures. There are people hopping in TikTok in 2024 with the 2020 mindset. And those two things together, I think, are what are making people say, like, hey, influencer marketing doesn't work anymore, or TikTok doesn't work anymore. It's like, no, you haven't adapted to it. You know what I'm saying? You haven't adapted to how it's adapted to its audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I am that artist, going back to your point with the $1,000 budget, where should I be spending that? How many micro influencers should I be going for?
Yeah, I mean, so every situation differs, man. It's hard to say like how much because influencer marketing is one of those things where it's not like ads where you know that I can most of the times get this cost or this cost. Influencer marketing is the Wild West because the influencers charge whatever they feel like they're worth, you know. So I found influencers that were overvalued, that overvalue themselves. I found influencers that undervalue themselves, and I found influencers that where I'm like, okay, like they know exactly like what they what they got. This is the perfect price. And so I think for $1,000, like I would probably shoot for at least like 5 to 7, you know what I'm saying? Try to find a couple that maybe like low end, like 3 or 4. Because I think that any influencer that is, and this is where it starts to become about like how much work you want to do in your influencer campaigns, um, and how much time you have to find people, honestly. Because if you have a lot of time and you don't mind putting in a lot of extra legwork, you probably could realistically get like 10, 20 plus influencers for 1,000. Like there's people out there who will take $50, $100. You know, there are people with followings that don't think of themselves as influencers. So like, you know, those are people that typically undervalue themselves, you know, and don't because they don't care. They have something else going on. So like, there's a world where $1,000 you could find 10 people like that for $100 and it works. But most of the time, the influencers you want to work with are the ones that do consider themselves influencers because that means that they take it seriously. That means that they're responsive, they're business minded, they're least likely to finesse you and take your money. And those are the people that are going to understand their value, or 9 times out of 10 understand their value and be charging what they're worth to sometimes overvaluing themselves. And so I think it becomes more about what type of campaign you're running and what you're trying to get out of it. For $1,000 campaign where let's say I'm looking to see if a concept is worth scaling out, I'll try to get at least 3 to 5, you know, because that to me is like, okay, let me see it from a couple different perspectives and see, you know, if all 5 flop, then we know the idea is terrible. But if 3 did good and these 2 did bad, then like we still might be onto something. Versus a campaign where let's say I want to use the influencer like a work for hire situation. Maybe I want to use their content for something. A situation like that, I might try to only get 1 or 2 because I want to be able to pay them enough that they go like really, really overboard for the video, right? Hey, I know you only charge 150, but I'll give you 300 to have this video done by tomorrow and have it done at this quality. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think it's a case by case basis, but for $1,000, I would say like low end, you should be looking at like 3. High end, if you're willing to do the groundwork to find the people, you could probably get up to like 10, 15 in that budget.
Got it. And speaking of the idea phase when you're testing it out, like how strict should a brief be? Would you like do you often go in giving them just a rough idea and let them like be creative, or are you very much being like, this is what I want delivered and how I want it done?
Yeah, it's 50-50 to be honest. It's 50-50. So in a situation where we know what we want to do, then we're pretty strict on the brief. We don't allow too much wiggle room, especially if we see it working. Then it kind of becomes like, nah, just do exactly what we're what we're telling you to do. If it's a situation where we don't know exactly what we want, but we just know we want to hit the space. So hey, I know I want to be in front of women and I want to use this makeup influencer, but I don't have an idea for a trend or something that they can do. In that situation, we'll kind of just trust the influencer. Because I will say this, like I do, you know, a lot of them are smarter than they may come off, you know, when you're depending on what their content is. And a lot of the influencers today, like they are looking at their analytics. They're the ones reading their comments. A lot of them are editing their own content. So 9 times out of 10, no one can tell you how to make a better piece of content for their audience than the person who manifests as the audience, right? So if it's a situation where we know exactly what we want, it's a short brief, probably not longer than like 2 or 3 sentences. A lot of times we'll even send them the content laid out. If it's a seeding campaign, hey, this is the exact order that we want the post to go in. This is the headline for each slide that we want. This is the caption that we want once you post it up. But if it's a traditional credit campaign, here's a brief, here's a couple of examples, send us a draft before you post it. So if we know what we want, we're pretty tight on it. If we're just looking to explore the space or we don't completely know, we'll let the influencer run the lead on it. And most of them are pretty cool about that, I would say.
Well, what was the aha moment, I guess, when you realized that these micro influencers are the way forward?
I mean, honestly, my aha moment didn't come in Def Jam. Def Jam more so reinforced things that I already knew but wasn't sure about, more so than I feel like they taught me anything new. Like it was more so like, okay, cool, like they're also doing this and or they also haven't figured this out. You know what I'm saying? So like it was more so like reassurance. I would say the aha moment for me with micro influencers honestly probably came back in like 2019, 2020. I remember finding this meme account at the time because I was working the campaign for an artist. She was like a bedroom pop singer. And, you know, she was like, I just wanted to get in front of more women. And then we found this meme account that only wanted like $40 for a post. Like they were like maybe 300,000 followers, $40 for a post, but her engagement was stupid. And I still work with this meme page that today they're a big meme page and today they're like a million plus. But, you know, 4 years ago, 3, 4 years ago, they're like 200K, 300K. And so not like super micro, but like at the time where everybody's going to like the Say Cheese and the shade rooms and the baller alerts and things like that, that was pretty small compared to that, right? Um, so I think it was a combination of that, but then also coming from the indie space, I think gives you a different value for micro influencers because there are a lot of times where you're working with clients where that's all you can get. You know, like what the other thing that people have to remember about influencers in these pages is that they are people with their own thoughts and opinions. They reserve the right to say no, right? So sometimes somebody might be like, hey, I want to get on DJ Academics, but DJ Academics doesn't want to take your money. So we need to go find a reactioner who will take your money and still falls in line with the goals and objectives that we were trying to hit. So, you know, versus like labels, a lot of time, if the artist name isn't big enough to open that door for them, the name of the label or the relationship of the people in the building will. So I think that sometimes they don't deal with those same issues. Like I've had campaigns before where they be like, yo, I thought you said this post was going up. And I'll be like, oh, the person said no. And they're like, they said no. I'm like, yeah, like people can say no. You know what I'm saying? Everybody doesn't take, everybody doesn't take the money, you know, but they're so shocked by it because tradition that world, like people are like, oh, it's Def Jam. Oh, it's a label artist. Yeah, I'll do it. But people say no, right? And so, like I said, when you're dealing with indie artists, you deal with that tenfold, you know, or sometimes their budget doesn't allow, you know, there have been lots of situations where if the client came to me with a 5K budget, I know exactly who I would go to, and you know we could have it done. But they came to me with a $1,500 budget, you know. So now I have to go find people that make sense for it, and like I said, still get the objectives done. So my appreciation for it came a long time ago and in a different way. And I would say what made me remember it, so maybe this is some credit to Def Jam, was actually two campaigns. There was a campaign we did for this artist named Friday that started off as a micro influencer campaign. It was for this song he has called When It Comes to You. And that was like, I remember like my first week working at Def Jam, they were just like, hey, you know, we want to get this in front of more women. I was like, cool, let's do like a micro influencer campaign with like couples, like let's get couples to like react to the video or do stuff to this song. Think we maybe hit like 10 influencers for like 2,000 or something like that. You know, maybe a little less than that, maybe like 1,800 or something. And then it started going viral, and then you know that springboarded into some other stuff, other campaigns that the label started kicking off. And then today, I think that is his biggest song. It definitely was the song that broke him through from his own getting his own fan base. But yeah, like I watched that bubble up from the ground zero from just a micro campaign into the other things that eventually that did it that led back to the essence of what that influencer campaign kind of started off as. And then just a week ago, I ran a campaign for this artist named Anella, and we did a campaign where we got like 50 pages to post him for like maybe 2,500 pounds. So that's what, like 30, 31 in USD or something like that, maybe 3K, something like that. Yeah. So, and it was like 50 accounts for basically $3,100. And yeah, that campaign went crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's probably sitting at maybe like 7, 8 million views total across all 50. The sound is moving on TikTok because of it. There are some of the really specific niche pages that we see like flowering into other stuff. And so, like I said, going back to, I could have spent $3,000 to get him on like 3 pages or 3 influencers accounts easy. You know what I'm saying? But we were able to get 50, and I still don't know because this was me going to another agency. I still don't know how they did it. Actually, yes, I do. I didn't know how they did it, but it's still crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a possibility. So that kind of reminded me, and then you know it feels like budgets are decreasing across the board. You know what I'm saying? Like from an indie and a major perspective. Like I can't really say like one side is not spending anymore. It feels like both sides are spending less money. And so I think that the marketplace is also forcing marketers to adapt and understand micro influencer marketing, or you don't necessarily die, but then you get thrown to kind of like the corporate, you know what I'm saying, Shark Tank, where you're competing with agencies who have 20 times your staff, you know what I'm saying, and and deal with like Coke and shit like that, you know what I'm saying? So then like it's like in order to adapt and I think stay competitive and stay in there, you can still work their world if you want to, but you stay in like to me the sweet spot is like the middle point, right? Like you're not too deep in the indie space, but you're not like too deep into the major system. They're like you're kind of like restricted in certain spaces. And I think in order to stay in that middle spot, like you have to learn how to get good at micro influencer if you are in any way, shape, or form associated with influencer marketing. Because it's slowly trickling to the point to where major labels are starting to see it. Like I think I give it to probably by like this time next year, probably early, honestly earlier than that, because there's some labels I see like doing it already. But I give it to maybe the summertime. We'll probably start to see a lot more labels do it, and I think by this time next year the marketplace will be more aware that they're doing it. So it'll be more of a thing, and now everybody will be doing it. And that's how it always goes.
And with that $3,100 campaign, was that your first idea that took off, or was there a few testing required first before it went big?
Yeah, so that's been an ongoing campaign. Yeah, so this was us scaling something out. It wasn't like starting something new. So he has a video that started going viral maybe like 3-4 months ago, I want to say. And so this is just kind of like an ongoing campaign. The goal of it was they felt like the song was moving faster than the sounds, which is really interesting because, a lot of times you can have like the opposite problem with TikTok where like the sounds are moving, but the music isn't really growing. But for him, it was like, hey, the streams are growing. We see the cultural impact, but like the sound isn't moving. And, you got to think about how like labels think. Like labels have like certain relationships and, activities and tools they know about that they can't activate until something hits a certain benchmark. So they're thinking of it like, hey, the song is doing great. But TikTok doesn't care about none of that. You know what I'm saying? We need to get the video to X amount of sounds for TikTok to lean in. So this was a campaign that was more so meant to one pad the sounds out. Like I said, we got like 50 videos for like 3K basically. But then two, to try to create some motion in some smaller niches that we could look to exploit. So we did that campaign. That campaign taught us that the anime niche really took to that song. And so then we did a campaign with a bunch of like small anime accounts. I think we got like 35 accounts for like 4K. So I mean, we're talking about like 7K total for basically 90 posts, you know what I'm saying? Over the span of like a week and a half. And those 90 posts, at least the last time I looked at it, generated at least like 500, 600 new UGC videos, and that was the week before Thanksgiving, the last time I looked at it. So I need to go look at it today. So we're talking about 2 weeks ago. So probably easy at this point. It's probably easy to crack like the 2-3K plus UGC generated just from that campaign, So if we talk about the videos we got plus the UGC, we're looking at, was that like, basically almost 2,100 videos, you know what I'm saying, for that price. And you're not getting that with big influencers. It's very, very rare. Like I said, to me, mega influencers are more so for this thing is working. We have copious amounts of proof to prove that it works. So we've tried 3 or 4 different things and all of it worked. Okay, now I'm gonna go spend crazy money. If it hasn't hit that point to where it's proven like that, in my opinion, just keep trying things out in the micro to mid range. So someone that is probably $100 up to maybe like $400 or $500 max per influencer. You know what I'm saying, like that's the range I think people should stay in before something works, and that's the range we try to stay in at Def Jam for the most part. Like if it's not like crazy moving, like we're testing things out with trying to get like maybe 5 to 6 creators per like 2 to 3K. You know what I'm saying? And seeing how that goes, so we can go back and say, hey, it's working. Can we have 20K to amp this up, or can we have 10K to get him on whatever stream or something like that. And so I know it's a little bit different for indies because, you know, they are the person they have to go talk to when something is working. So there's no one to kind of pass the information along to. But I think it's useful to know that, because I do think that a really big misconception that indie artists have is that major labels spend a lot of money on artist marketing. And I think that they feel like they have to spend a lot of money to keep up. And like that's true for a very small percentage of artists. Like artists like a Drake or like a Nicki Minaj or something are the ones that are getting massive amounts of money spent on them consistently. Even their money is kind of dry. You can look it up. You can hear them all complaining about budget shrinking. You know what I'm saying? Yo, 3 years ago when I dropped my album, you gave me a $500,000 budget. This time around, you only gave me 150K. You know what I'm saying? So it's happening across the board. But, you know, small artists are like, man, I gotta have a 100K budget because label artists have a 100K budget. And it's like, yeah, it's not true, man. Like the average label artist, in my opinion, like budding act is maybe like 30 to 50K in a year. You know what I'm saying? And I say that from artists I've worked with at other labels who were budding acts, and then artists that we work with that were indie that just had like money and were budding acts, right? Like on average, they're maybe spending like 2 to 5K a campaign. So let's say they maybe do 8 to 10 campaigns a year. You know, like I said, that's like 20 to 50K right there. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever that math comes out to. And so I think it's good for indie artists to know, because they're moving towards a goalpost that the major labels are trying to move away from. Like they're like, I want to get to the point where I am spending 100K every drop. Labels are like, okay, we've been kind of stupid about doing that. Let us back up and figure out how to be more efficient with the money. And you know, the indies don't get that because they're not having those conversations, or they're not paying enough attention to the landscape to see that. And you don't get to see the budgets, but you can tell by, you know, you can look at any major artist that's dropped projects, like look at what happens once it comes out. That'll tell you how much money's been spent. You know what I'm saying? Not the exact number, but it'll give you a good idea of like what's going on. If you see them everywhere, you're like, oh yeah, no, they spending money. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is kind of crazy. But if you're like, oh, all I saw from bro was like a one DJ Academics post, and I think I saw some IG ads. It's like, all right, they're probably running like a 3K campaign. You know what I'm saying? Like for them, or maybe like 2K or something. And I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that, you know, you hear people like Sean and I tell artists like, hey, like get money first and then figure out how to be smart with money. And I think they don't think that major artists are being smart with money. They probably think they're just like frivolously spending. And it's like, that's not true, bro. Even people like Kendrick Lamar probably has easy a $500,000 budget, but he's gonna sit down and count every dollar and be really strategic with every dollar. And I could spend 500K in 2 weeks and blow this shit the fuck up. But you know, I got something coming out a month from now that I want to make sure I got at least 20K to spend for us. And then I got this thing that my manager saw that he thinks is cool, so I'm gonna give him 5K to go test that out. And then, you know, I gotta get these shorts made so I can ramp up my TikTok. That's gonna be another 2K. It's like that's how every artist is thinking about it. It's not just an indie thing at this point. It really is every artist of every size kind of thinking of it in that way. And so I think that the small artists who feel like it's 100% all a big money game, like they need to know that they have to find a way to see that, because if not, you know, there's nothing wrong with having a lot of money. Like you'll never be in a bad situation the more money you get for your marketing campaign. But there are people who are making things happen with $1,000, $500 budget, you know what I'm saying, $2,000 budget. Like it's not always 10K, 100K, $1 million budget, you know.
I just wanted to also circle back to a point you made when you talk about Def Jam and the idea that you want to be more involved at like the inception of the idea phase. So I think there's a lot you can take there as an artist. Like, don't just think about your, you know, the plan for your rollout like after the song's been created and you've shot some content. You know what needs to be top of mind from the very beginning. Like what sort of campaign you could run around this song.
Yeah, exactly. Like I literally think it needs to be worked backwards, because a lot of times if you talk to artists, especially ones that are knowledgeable about seeding. So let's say an artist that's been signed to a label for a while, maybe an artist that has ran their own campaigns, worked with like a country band. The ones that get it, they usually know what pages they want to be on. You know, like they may defer to someone like me because they trust my opinion. But if I was an idiot on the street that didn't know any better, like they would probably be able to step up and say, okay, these are the 4 or 5 accounts I want to be on. And so now it's like, okay, you already understand at least what platform you want to be on. Now you need to do 2 things. You need to go take a look at their audience and understand the people that pay attention to the platform, so you can then step back and say, do I have content that makes sense here? If so, let's make it happen. If not, then two things you can do in that situation. You either have to go find a platform that makes sense for it, or you have to create something that makes sense for that platform. So a lot of times what you'll see is the artist will be like, oh man, I want to be, you know, I'll give an example. Like I had an artist recently that wanted to be on the Shade Room. Like Shade Room, you know, everybody knows what the Shade Room is. Huge media platform. And they wanted to do it with like just a single. And I'm like, okay, Shade Room isn't cheap. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to put their price out because I know they charge people different prices. But it's easy 5 figures. You know what I'm saying? Easy 5 figures for a Shade Room post. And so I'm like, all right, are we gonna spend 5 figures to just promote like this, like your song? Like, we're just gonna post like a snippet from the music video? I'm like, don't you want to like, let's throw some narratives in there, man. Let's go pull some old content, go do something that's salacious. Like, let's make a moment because we about to spend a lot of money here. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to just put the song out, I know better pages that are cheaper that could get that same job done, right? And so you'll see a lot of times with artists, they'll come to the marketer, they'll say, hey, here's my batch of videos, here's 4 or 5 videos, go make it work. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, you know, as the marketer, like you do what you have to do, but in there are situations I'm like, man, if you could have made like this type of video, like this post would have went way harder. Or, you know, we really should have put this over here. Or I had a campaign I ran for artists like a month ago. Yeah, this was like a month ago. And she had a bunch of content. Some of it was cool, but only like 2 pieces of it really stood out to me. There was like a clip from the video, like from the actual music video, because the music video was hard. And then there was a clip of like a model almost getting hit by a train at the video shoot. And I was like, man, nobody had sent me the clip, like the artist, the team. I just like found it looking at her Instagram. And I was like, man, I'm about to like get one of the pages to post this and just see how it does. And so I found this meme account, geared towards women, got them to post it, and that video did better than all the music stuff. You know what I'm saying? It brought attention. I could see people going over to check her out. I edited it in a way so that it was still like a music promo at the end. And I'm showing it to the artist team, and I was like, yo, imagine if we had like 4 more of these, you know what I'm saying? Or imagine if we started here and then the narrative built out, and then it would have made more sense to get big pages to talk about it. So I can only fault artists so much because most artists isn't thinking about their marketing campaigns like that linearly, right? I need to do this to create this moment so I can then go here to say this so I can make this happen, and I can step back for a little bit, come back a week later, get them to post this, and then do this, and then that's going to create this whole thing. Like, that's usually marketers and labels thinking. For the artists who like work with a marketer, the best thing you can do for their marketer is hit him or her up 2 weeks before you want to do the campaign, right? You know you're going to lock in, you know you got the budget. This is your guy. Say, hey, here's my budget. What are the pages I can get for that? They'll go look at it. They'll tell you. And then when they bring you back those pages, say, hey, is there anything, you know, we got 2 weeks until we launch this. Is there anything that you need me to create now that you think will make your job easier or make the post go harder on these accounts? I promise you, the average marketer's gonna be like, what? I mean, man, you're mentioning it. I got like 3 or 4 ideas. If you could do this and then you could do this before then, that would be crazy, right? And I guarantee you, and 8 times out of 10, your campaign is to go over way smoother, go over way better.
So, Corey, where can everyone connect with you?
You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok at Corey the Savior, KOHREYDASAVIOR. Also can check me out on YouTube at either BRANDMAN NETWORK or No Labels Necessary. It'll all take you to the same place. But Instagram and TikTok, well, I'm the most active. Like, you hit me up on there, you know, I'll probably respond back.
Marketing music as an artist isn't just about getting attention, it's about keeping it. Anyone can get lucky enough to go viral, but Forever Fan gives you the tools to build real, lasting connections. Instantly get access to a mini site that allows you to spotlight your unique brand to stand out from the rest. Use direct-to-fan management tools that allow you to understand who your fans are and where they are, so you can send curated texts and emails. And then create automated engagement campaigns that keep every fan feeling special, because Forever Fan continues to work for you 24/7 so you can make a good impression on current and future fans at all times. Your music deserves to be heard, and your fans deserve to feel connected from their first listen to forever.